till the 80s. That's all been confirmed. That's on record. That's happening. That's going on. That's the reality. That's what's happening here, okay? And Arpaio, Obama birth record, definitely fraudulent. AP. So the system's very upset about that, and we'll be covering it tonight because no one believes you anymore. Now, again, we were thrown off because all of his publications, all of his reports, all of his everything said he was born in Kenya. He himself, his wife said that. But that was the cover. It's Frank Marshall Davis. So that's why we have these fake and doctored birth certificates. It turns out he was born in Hawaii, probably. It's just we're given fake birth certificates because it is father unknown on there. And that's what this one shows. They doctored that out because the marks are father unknown, but then it says father known. Point is that it's his phony, it's a $3 bill. We don't even know exactly who he is. 98% chance, Frank Marshall Davis. Now, I want to just briefly, I wanted to get him to pop in. Then we're going to go a little bit into overdrive and take small business owners that have been holding patiently like Ralph and others. But Lloyd Chapman, ASBL.com, frequent guest, fellow Texan, worked for Bob Bullock here. He's pointed out that they criminally divert most of the funds that are supposed to go to small businesses in bids to multinationals and globalists. They have blacklists. He sued them countless times and won. And he exposes this. I briefly wanted to get him on. Play the clip of Obama, please. Here is Obama saying that if you have a small business, you didn't do jack diddly squat. So now not only are small businesses not on the radar, now it's bad. In fact, you abuse somebody's labor to even have a small business, you pieces of filth. Here it is.
If you've been successful, you didn't get there on your own. I'm always struck by people who think, well, it must be because I was just so smart. There are a lot of smart people out there. It must be because I worked harder than everybody else. Let me tell you something. There are a whole bunch of hard-working people out there. If you were successful, somebody along the line gave you some help. There was a great teacher somewhere in your life. Somebody helped to create this unbelievable American system that we had that allowed you to thrive. Somebody invested in roads and bridges. If you got a business, you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen. The internet didn't get invented on its own. Government research created the internet, so then all the companies could make money off the internet.
Okay. Now, again, this is a guy that gives the contracts to offshore cronies to shut American business down, and the crowd's cheering when they hear about small businesses being bad. Like whenever there's a riot or whatever, the small businesses all get burned down. So, I mean, let me tell you, he knows what he's doing. He used to run stuff in Chicago. He's saying, hey, small businesses, they're going to burn, baby. And it's like, you bet they are. This is the screwball level this has come to. Something that, what do you make of this, Lloyd Chapman? What do you make of now the open assault on the almost extinct small business?
Oh, I like to make dramatic statements and back them up with irrefutable fact. And here's my dramatic statement. Barack Obama is one of the most anti-small business presidents in U.S. history. Fact number one, on February of 2008, he released a statement that said it's time to end the diversion of federal small business contracts to corporate giants. So he admitted it was a problem, he admitted he knew about it, and he promised to stop it. The most recent data released by the USDA about July 3rd showed that of the top 100 recipients of federal small business contracts from the Obama administration, 70 are large businesses, including Finmeccanica, a defense contractor owned by the Italian government that's getting hundreds of millions in U.S. government small business contracts. About 2 years ago, I sued the Obama administration when he removed the parent company Dun & Bradstreet number from the government's database of suppliers, which was how federal investigators and people like me and you could see who really owns a company. Is this a real small business or is this a front for some large corporation? He removed that from the database so you couldn't tell.
Yeah, folks, you wonder why the economy's shutting down. They're paying to move your jobs. They're not just leaving. They want them gone, so you're on welfare under their control. Stay there. We'll talk about it. All right, only got a few minutes left with Lloyd Chapman. I appreciate him coming on short notice. So we're told we had Bibles and guns were better clingers. Think of, he said that about Muslims or some other group or Jewish groups. I mean, but it's like Christians, it's allowed to be attacked. In fact, it's like cool. And then now, and again, I'm not even supporting Romney, folks. You have to understand, it's that Obama is so bad to come out and say, if you have a small business, you didn't build that, you didn't do that, implying that you don't have crew that get paid or crew that get promoted. It's like saying that the workers and the government are together against the business owner, when it's the big mega business owners that actually have gamed the whole thing for corporate welfare and to get all the small business contracts. Because, yeah, the American system, I guess you could say, is some government contracts to small businesses with the tax money. But that system's out the window, but then Obama runs around talking about it. Lloyd Chapman of American Small Business League, what do you make of this?
You know, it's stunning that this isn't on the front page of every newspaper in the country. America's in the worst economic downturn in 80 years. We know from the U.S. Census Bureau data that small businesses create over 90% of all net new jobs. We've got a president who's attacking small businesses and diverting the federal funds that by law should go to them to the biggest companies on earth. I simply can't believe that this is not on every television station and every newspaper in the country. It's just shocking. More evidence that Barack Obama is anti-small business. That's why I got to go to federal court every day of the week getting information from the Obama administration about who's getting these federal small business contracts.
It's supposed to be public, but they're trying to make it secret. And you narrowly defeated a blacklist they had, but but that's still being implemented secretly.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I'll tell you something funny. I have a friend that does business with the government, and he's one of my supporters, and he was doing business with a government contractor, and some purchasing agent sort of unknowingly told him that there was a note in there to blacklist his company. And the guy didn't understand. He was looking at the screen while he's talking to a friend of mine. And but the truth is, what small businesses need to do is stand together and object to this. And
the bid process needs to be.
It's $100 billion a year that's supposed to go to small businesses, and it's not happening. Funny thing is, the Obama administration released information July 3rd. They're claiming that they gave $100 billion, over $100 billion to small businesses. And yet they released it secretly to a small group of journalists. That President Obama didn't go on national television and talk about it. He knows that he doesn't want media scrutiny. But if the Obama administration actually gave $100 billion to small businesses, you'd think he'd issue a press release. He'd be on television talking about it. He hasn't mentioned it. So just notice Barack Obama has not mentioned that July 3rd, his administration claims.
Well, of course. I mean, almost all the bailout money goes to offshore corporations. This is the plan. And once we're fully imploded, they can all come back in and buy the country up for pennies on the dollar.
Yep. It's unbelievable. By the way, you can't get this story in the mainstream media. I'll tell you something, Alex. I did an interview with CBS, NBC, and the Washington Post. Those stories didn't run. They were supposed to run on certain dates. They didn't run.
By the way, I mean, that's why I got the Washington Post just called today and wants to talk to me. And it's like, even if the reporter's good, it's either going to be a hit piece or it'll never run. I mean, the Wall Street Journal sent a big writer down here a few years ago. They said, oh, it's going to be a cover story. Oh, yes. And I said, oh, your editor told you that. I said, it will be killed by News Corps above that. And she called me back a month later and said, my God, you're right. I've never had this happen working here, a decade.
Happens to me every week. When I did the CBS interview, when it was over, I told the cameraman, the producer, the reporter, I said, this story will never air. You can't put Lloyd Chapman on national television. It'll never happen. And when I did the CBS interview, I guess that was about 10 days ago, I told them the same thing. But if you talk to the Washington Post, ask them where their story is about the diversion of federal small business contracts to corporate giants that were supposed to run about 10 days ago.
All right, listen, great job. We'll talk to you for a full interview soon. But understand, folks, they don't want you to know this information. Get InfoWars out to everybody. See you tonight, 7 o'clock Central.
Thank you for listening to GC.
Well, Obama has come out and said that entrepreneurs are lazy scum, basically. You didn't build jack squat. So we've had a couple of these evil people sitting there while I talked to the last two guests. Briefly, talking to Ralph and then Marty and Ken, at least. Sorry to David and Jason. We'll probably won't have time to get to you, but we'll see what happens. Real fast, Ralph, how evil of an entrepreneur scum are you?
How you doing, Alex?
Good.
Man, it's great to talk to you. Been listening for a while, first-time caller. I'm from Chicago. As you know, that this is the mafia capital. Previously, my grandfather, when he started the company, we're actually a payroll service. We do a lot of the payroll for a lot of the local businesses in the suburbs. And he would tell me back in the days that he would get shaken down a lot for not complying with whatever they needed or whatever they wanted. And nowadays, it's more of sort of it's bureauccy that we have to put up with, and I have to deal with Homeland Security almost every day for some employees not filing proper paperwork, and I've been threatened and shut down. I've been fined countlessly.
Oh yeah. Listen, Texas isn't bad compared to other states, but Ted Anderson, half the time I called Ted Anderson up at Genesis, he's got state auditors. He said, oh, just everybody gets this. And they just come in and are inspectors for the building. I mean, talk about socialism. I mean, what a joke.
It's a complete joke. And I don't know what to do. I think about it every day. My wife thinks about it. And I don't know what to tell my children. I could be at risk any day for, a shutdown, and this is my livelihood.
Well, yeah, that's all Patriot Act compliance, where you've got to spy on everybody and they lie to you and say that Homeland Security's in control of you. It's indentured servitude.
We have a lawyer, a personal friend of mine who does work for us when I do need him, and he tells me that a lot of the things that he sees is very unconstitutional. A lot of the things that he sees is just them putting pressure just to get what they want.
So what are they wanting? I mean, wanting you to spy on people, or what is it? They come in with new forms every week. They want social security numbers. They want us to comply with. They want us to do because there's so many there's so many people in Chicago that they don't know who's illegal and who's not, and they want to make sure that we're not employing or paying. But then meanwhile, they're hiring the illegals and bringing them in. It's just a way to harass businesses. I appreciate your call. Horrible to hear that. Marty in Florida, you're on the air. Welcome.
Yeah, Alex. I've been in construction for 40 years, and not once have I seen any government officials around. I mean, outside it gets 100 degrees. It gets that hot that, you can't, they'd pass out. And I just feel like for him to say that.
Yeah, turn your radio off.
I just want to, man, he makes me so mad.
You got to turn your radio off.
Alex, also, I've got a little issue here. There was a guy in Leesburg was killed at 1:30 in the morning. His door was kicked in by cops. And I
saw that. They came to the wrong house, and he had a gun, so they shot him, right?
They shot him dead, man. All he done, he opened the door to find out who was there because they didn't identify themselves, and they shot him dead.
Yeah, but I mean, government creates everything. I mean, they gave him a gift.
I mean, and there's a guy standing there.
No, sir. They gave him a gift. They came to the wrong house, banged on the door, opened it, and shot him. I mean, that's government. They look at what Hitler and Stalin and Mao and Fidel Castro and Pol Pot and Genghis Khan and Julius Caesar, and Vlad the Impaler. They gave that man a gift.